go ahead and get started. The sort of talking points I planned. I mean, we can go with the flow, and see where it goes. But I figured I'd kind of give like an overview of like what is Trello, what have we got going on in Trello, and then Eric and I can kind of talk about some of the like newer things that are coming to Trello. So basically, if you've used Trello for a while, you'll learn something. If you've never seen Trello before, we'll get you up to speed and then show you what the new stuff is and why it's like super cool. So, but yeah, I'm happy to kind of kick things off. My name is Brittany Joyner. I really need to update my picture on here, but like I have short hair now. But how cute is this picture with my dog giving me a kiss and my book?
Yeah.
I'm obsessed with Trello. I've been using it for over a decade, and I started using it at work, but I started realizing there were other areas in my life that I could use it as well. So like keeping track of, different personal goals I was working on, chores, meal planning, side projects, client work that I was doing. And long story short, it turned into something that took over my entire life in all of the best ways possible. And I started learning how to do more things with it. And then I started talking about that. And then it just kind of led to me learning more things. And it brought me to, my status today, which is Trello super nerd, Atlassian community champion. And yeah, I'm purely obsessed with Trello. So I'll talk obviously more about that all throughout our session today. But if you're sitting here and you're like, okay, she has said this word 1,000 times. What is Trello? I have two ways that I love to describe Trello. First, it's a digital whiteboard with supercharged sticky notes. And so at its core, that's the simplest thing, right? You've got a whiteboard that you're organizing information on. You've got sticky notes. We've all seen them. We've all used them in our offices, in our homes, different places. And that's at its core. It's obviously way cooler than that. But if you're trying to like get a visual reference of like, what am I looking at? Literally, it's a digital whiteboard that you can access from your phone, your computer, anywhere. You don't even need internet. And you can still like save cards and things like that on Trello mobile. So that's one thing. The other analogy I like to use is that it's also like Lego bricks. And so if you're like me, you like building things, toying around with different stuff, and really just sort of figuring out like, where does this go? What is this? Like you can kind of build your own adventure with it, which is great, but also it can be a little bit intimidating if you think about it, because it's like everybody will see a packet of Legos and be like, oh, this is really cool. This is I'm going to make this super, super cool race car. But then you just see these little bricks and you're like, well, how does it turn into that? Where does this one go? Where does this one go? And so that's why I think Trello is kind of like that. You can make some really cool stuff with it, but sometimes you need someone to explain to you what all of these little bricks are and what are the cards and what goes where and how these pieces work. And oh my gosh, yes, Erika, the Trello hat. I just saw it now. I love that. Oh, by the way, also, I realized I kicked off and introduced myself. Erika, do you want to introduce yourself too? I know like you're going to talk through some more stuff at the end here, but like.
Oh yeah, sure. Hi everybody, I'm Erika. I'm a senior PMM product marketer on Trello, and I've been part of Atlassian for the last 4 years. I discovered Trello with my time in school as a student many years ago. One of my college professors had us use it for our final project where we had to work with an external client. And as you can imagine, in order to trust a bunch of college students to work on a real life client, he wants to make sure we're doing the work and getting things done and progressing on our tasks. And he had us all join a shared Trello board with him. Each group had their own Trello board. And so that's the first time I used Trello was for my management information systems class. So yeah.
I don't think I knew that story. Erika, I've known you for like years now, I guess. And like, I don't think I ever knew that story. That's amazing.
Yeah, no, I mean, that was exactly when I was like looking for a new role. And I remembered, I was like, I love this product. I wonder if they're hiring. And
yeah,
at the time,
so cool. Wow. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely one of those like versatile things that everybody knows about. I feel like that, they're like, oh yeah, Trello. Like just even earlier this morning, I was exploring this this new tool I discovered, and was kind of like talking with one of the founders about like how it works in different things. And I said something about Trello, and they're like, "Oh yeah, yeah, I love Trello." And I was like, "Yeah, literally, like, just you'll run into somebody on an airplane, and they'll like be like, 'Oh, hey, I recognize that.'" Like, so that's I love hearing people's like origin stories. So yeah, if you're watching, post in the chat, and if you have heard of Trello before, tell us like your origin story and how you heard it. And was it in a classroom? Was it in a marketing agency? Was it at your wedding, and your fiance was like, "We're getting married, and this is how you organize it"? I've heard that story too.
Yeah, me too.
Um, yeah, so basically, so that's kind of the what is Trello, but it's used for a lot of different things. So it's actually probably a perfect segue to this slide, where there's a lot of people who will use Trello for all of the things we mentioned, but there's a million other use cases, right? Like project managers will use it for keeping track of what you're doing with projects, or in Erica's case, with like clients that you're working with and making sure things are moving forward. It works really well in a lot of workflows. I use it for content creation, and so every card goes from sort of an idea to drafting to editing to reviewing to done. And so you can kind of track different stages and keep track of those attributes there. A lot of people also use it for what I like to call like ticketing sort of use cases, and it kind of goes into the workflow thing. But when I was working in marketing, I would use it for like when people wanted to make requests from our ads team, and so I'd have a formatted card that was sort of template for an ad request, and then it would move through the different stages of approved or not approved, and like needing details and things like that. Oh, also, hi Diana. I'm so glad you're here. Oh my gosh, we're like live on a call together. This is so amazing. So yeah, so that's just one of the other use cases. Trips, perfect time for Diana to join. She does lots of stuff with Trello with trips, but that's another sort of like a gateway Trello use case. Is a lot of people will love coordinating trips on it and being able to, I'm going to Toronto in October, and I'm coordinating a whole trip with me and one of my friends who's going with me and my partner, and we're organizing sort of things we want to do, and then turning that into an itinerary, and all sorts of things like that just from within Trello. So yeah, I'm seeing in the chat here Scrum. That's definitely a common use case in the travel business. Allison mentioned 10 years in our marketing office, ticketing system, project manager, documentation. Yep, exactly. Ooh, coordinate with tenants for rental house. Yeah, I became a landlord just a month ago. Landlady, I don't know what that makes me, but yes, I'm also using Trello. Not really with my tenants, although they can barely handle text messages and emails sometimes. So I don't know, but like yeah, I think that's a great use too for being able to communicate with people and have a list of what you're waiting on and what you need. With travel wish list, I also use Trello to manage my actual wish list. Like I legitimately will sweep into the demo here. I have a list or a board called things to buy, and it's basically just like a giant add to cart on the internet, and I like sort it out by different sort of things and different categories, but each one is like different sort of links that I get from different things that I want for the camper or my house or stuff like that. So yeah, I too use it as a wish list. um oh yeah, logging items for repairs, adding quotes to the cards. That's super super smart. So yeah. So, okay, this is again, it's almost like I planned this. Great segue into some of the other boards that I use. So, these are, this is just a little whirlwind tour of some different things that I use Trello for and like real life boards. These are not demo boards that I'm showing you. These are like real life in production things. So you'll see what we're doing in my life. So this is our meal planning board. This is probably my most advanced automation board. I'll cover that. If there's interest, I'm happy to do another session on it, but I could spend an entire session just talking about the automation and things I've made in here. I actually have a YouTube video and an edition of my newsletter where I talk about it. But the reason this section is empty is because it's now Thursday, so we usually plan like 3 meals to make for the week, and then we live off of leftovers and takeout for the rest of the week, and so we're entering the takeout leftover stage. But I use this to queue up meals, and let's say I want to make, I decide this is the meal I want to make. I first of all can make Trello suggest it by clicking one of my board buttons, or I can just manually pick one myself. And when I say, oh, this looks good, this is what I want to make, I have an automation where I say approve meal, and it's going to generate a shopping list for me. You can see it doing that like in real time. And so whether I'm ordering online from Walmart or I'm going to the grocery store, I can see all of these things are here. I have labels added, and then I can sort the list. Well, I have automation. I think it's actually a button. I don't admittedly use it a ton because I buy my groceries online most of the time, so it doesn't matter as much as when I first made this. But it would sort it out by produce versus meat. So like I'm not running around the store, which is my least favorite thing to do. It feels like I've done something terribly wrong if I have to go back to the same corner of a grocery store. Like I'd almost rather not get the thing than have to repeat a step. So yeah, so I'll include a link to let me see. Half the time if I search meal planning Trello in my name, it just comes up. But I have a video, and oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Let me put the link to this in the chat here. But um all sorts of cool stuff. I'm in the process of like, I think I'm working on releasing some new Trello templates, and this is one that's like a high contender that everybody wants to see. But I don't use this part as much either, but I even created something where I could say like, let's say I have beans at home, I can create a card called beans, and it's going to go across my board if it still works. And yeah, it's going to go across my board and find all of the cards that have ingredients with that, and then make a list of things so I can say, oh, I have beans in the house. Which one of these do I want to make? So yeah, I'm super proud of this board. And oftentimes I will make a Trello board for a specific purpose and be like, oh, that was great for that. Yay, cool things. Let's move on. But I still use this board every day. And my partner is in it as well. We add recipes in here. So yeah, so definitely check out that link with the deep dive. Another one that I like to talk about is my recurring adulting things. And so I used to use my calendar to remember when I need to do flea medicine and things like that. Like, actually, this is perfect because I knew this was due today. So I just did this morning. I gave my cats flea medicine. And the problem was sometimes I would do it a few days late and I couldn't remember when I had done it. And so for the like monthly sort of things, it's like, sometimes it'd take me 2 weeks to get to it, and then I'd finally do it, and I'd be like, well, okay, I guess I don't need to do it for another month now. It doesn't, doing it twice 2 weeks later doesn't necessarily make sense. So I created this automation where I can keep track of how often I need to do the things, and I just click one automation button to say reset, and it's going to update the date so I can see, moves it to the bottom of the list. You can see now it says that it was last done today, and it basically takes that frequency and sets it so I know when the next one is. So this is great. Other people will use like card repeaters or automation to make a card repeat itself every month, which totally works. The thing I didn't like about that was, especially for the weekly things, if I get out of a habit of something or I'm like on vacation, I didn't want to come back to like 20 cards because again, I don't need to now dust the bedroom twice. I just need to do it once and be done with it. So I really, really like that card or like that board. That's been another great one. Um, and then of course you've got, your classic sort of sales pipeline and stuff of like, I don't do a lot of like active like consulting anymore, but when I do, I keep track of it kind of on this board and figure out what I need to do with them and how I need to organize, different sort of bits in here, whether it's content or consulting, and I can add different sort of checklist items to that. So you can see like, this is somebody I'm working with, and I've got, all of my contact details on here with Crumble, and then I've got any tasks that I know I need to do. And I actually use card mirroring. So if I say respond to email, I'm using Trello's latest card mirroring features to create a task for that. So I have a list called tasks. It'll create that there, and then it'll actually mirror it to my main dashboard, which you can see it now turns up here. This is kind of my control panel of all the things that I'm working on, and there's a bunch of other different boards I'm living out of, obviously. So, and you're going to recognize some of these. We've talked about the recurring adulting things, and then yeah, so this is kind of my main panel of like, all right, well, what all do I have going on this week? What do I need to look at? What am I working on? and all sorts of things. So I'm going to look at the chat here. Erica says, how many of those features are available in the free versus paid? It's a great question. Everything I've talked about so far, except for the take card mirroring aside for a second, everything else I've said is like pretty purely automation. It does use custom fields, which is in the like $5 a month plan. So a lot of the automation where I'm showing you, I'm keeping track of like those dates and then adding like 30 days to it, or like keeping track of like the meal planning, not so much. The meal planning board you could probably get by with not using the custom fields. I do use them, and I explain a little more why in that blog post I sent. But the recurring chore stuff, a lot of that does use custom fields, which you need to be part of like the standard or higher plan. But other than that, card mirroring, Erica, I can never remember exactly what's the difference between the free versus not free, but like I think the card mirroring still will work for free people. You'll just see less details about it like on this board, right? Yeah. So it's basically, yeah, so basically it all still mostly works. It just you'd see a little bit more information about this, but either way, even if you don't see all the info, all I have to do is click on that and it's going to like go to whatever the card is that I need to do there. So it's not you're still getting most of the functionality. There's just some of the different sort of style or ways that things are set up. But I'll try to make sure over the next, little bit as I point things out, I call out what is like a premium feature versus not. But that's kind of what I love about Trello. Like at its core, even all of the automation that I'm talking about is totally free. The difference between the plans is that you get more volume of automation. So, for something like meal planning, you probably don't need a robust amount of that, right? You're maybe, doing a couple meals a week. So like you're running automation sometimes, but there are certain things depending on how much you want to build out that you may need a high volume of it. But even as much as I use Trello automation, I don't even think I come close to using as much as they give us on the premium plans. So very, very generous tiers with that, I will say. But yeah, the other sort of free things that I would call out is that with checklists, you get checklists on all Trello cards, but you actually get something called advanced checklists with the standard plan where you can assign due dates and members to a card, or sorry, to a checklist item, and that can be useful for various things. Again, not necessarily a feature everybody needs, but can be useful for some stuff. Also, you all are getting a very first sneak peek at a Chrome extension I'm building for Trello. It is not released yet, but if you're like, where is that collapse all button? I've never seen it. It's literally only available on my computer at this moment. But I am actually trying to make it available in the Chrome Web Store, and so I will. Yeah, if you're interested in something like that, um, sign up for my Substack because I'll post and let you know the moment it is like approved that it's been like published and is available. But yeah, I'm super excited by it. It lets you like collapse individual checklists or all of them. So yeah, I've seen a bunch of people asking for that and decided to try my hand at making it. So yeah, so that's some boards. Also, I like budgeting was kind of one thing that I never could quite figure out in Trello. That was a thing that I was like, still got to have my spreadsheets. But there's a power up called Colorful Budgets that lets you basically create budget categories. I'm not the type of person, I don't like to track like every dollar I spend, but usually I do try to like start out the year with like over the year, I know I'm going to spend this much on maintenance. I know I've got a trip coming up to Scotland. I know we've got campground. I know I'm going to have to do some stuff on the house and we're moving, and just kind of thinking through those. And what I can do is basically say, I estimate I'm going to spend about this much on these things. And then I can create a card for each of those things to allocate when, I've actually spent that and how I'm tracking on that. And there's different reports and stuff with that I don't use really. What I just use is I like to like keep track of like, all right, I was roughly planning on spending about 3,000 on home stuff, and I've spent about that much. So and then I can indicate when I've like moved it around from the different accounts that I budgeted for it in. So that's another one. And then I'm going to show this one real quick too, my trip one, and then we're going to go back into like some of the meat and potatoes here. But I will often have boards for specific trips. So like for instance, my Toronto half marathon, this is the board that I was saying that I have. I will eventually fill in with like activities, but right now we're in the ideation stage where we're just putting all sorts of things on here, which by the way, some of you may be up more up north than me. If you have any Toronto recommendations, let me know. And I've got different things on here where we can kind of like vote on them, and I use the location. This is a premium feature, and it's not useful for everything, but it's very useful for some things like trip planning. So I can actually view these cards, which is going to make it super easy when I see what we want to do to be like, oh, these things we can all do in a day, or like, oh, this might be something else that we do on a different sort of day. So that's another reason I love using Trello for that. And then when, like I said, we do plan these out, I can just kind of drag them over. Um, I've got custom fields on these to help keep track of what we're doing here. Oh my gosh, no way! You used to live it. That is okay. If you like beer, Bellwoods Brewery. Okay, adding that one right in here now. See, literally, you're
Mhm.
seeing the Trello boards
Okay.
in action. In action here. I'm gonna add a vote to it so I know that I want it, and then location. Now this is how the location stuff works. How cool is this? I just put it in, and it's like, ooh, interesting. North York
That one.
or
Yep.
that one. Okay, cool. Yeah,
Yep.
and so now I can see it on a map here, and I can say, I don't know, like probably don't need to book ahead of time. I assume they have some outdoors where I could bring Levi if I wanted to, or call this
Mhm.
food and drinks. So yeah. So anyways, so that's perfect. But the other thing that, even aside from, I don't always have a board for every single trip. Sometimes I will just plan out the beginning of my year and just kind of say, okay, these are the different things I know that are coming up. I know I'm going to need to book a flight. I know I'm going to need to, book some lodging. And if there's a related board, I will. But this is like often where I'll keep track of different tasks associated with it. And then when a trip is done, I just drag it to the end and I collapse it. So this is, I believe, collapsing list is available in free and paid users. You can color list. That is a feature that I think you have to pay for. I think that is like standard or higher. But I believe collapsing is available to everybody. So yeah. So yeah. So I will pause there. I'm trying to keep an eye on the chat, but yeah, I already showed you my things to buy. I showed you my like main dashboard. Um, Suffice to say, I'm obsessed with Trello. I think you're getting that vibe here that I literally use it for all sorts of things, and it's something that very much helps me. I have no exaggeration, literally thousands of thoughts running through my mind every day, as I'm sure a lot of you do. And that's what I like about Trello is it really like brings calm to that sort of chaos. And I know everything can be accounted for and organized somewhere so I can take action on it. And so, and we'll talk about this in a minute, but with the new Trello inbox, it really helps me be able to like just quickly jot a thought down and then be able to like drag it over to a board when I want to. But I'm skipping a bit ahead of myself now because some of you who may be new to Trello are like, okay, you've shown me the inspiration, but what are we talking about here? What are these cards you speak of? Um, and this is the core terminology you need to know about Trello. Okay, you've got three core components. You've got your board, which is this sort of whole concept here of your digital whiteboard, and then you've got lists, which are these sections that you group things in. And then you've got cards, which are these supercharged sticky notes, as I like to call them. And there's all sorts of attributes you can add to these. We'll dive more into that in a second, but those are the three main components that build your boards. And then things that I layer on top of it to give it more functionality are power ups, which are third party or sometimes even first party. Trello has made some too. Integrations that you can add to your board. Oh, hey, look, Rasmus, that's your power up. And there's a whole library of different things people have made to add to your boards to add features like being able to limit how many cards are in a list or show how many cards are in a list, syncing with other tools, all sorts of things. Could literally do a whole session dedicated to that. But that's one sort of way to supercharge your board. And then the next one is automation. Again, there's whole sessions I have done and can do and will do on this because this is what I think makes Trello way more magical than any other project management tool. The amount of things you can automate in here is just spectacularly mind blowing. I used to think that project management sort of tools like this could be annoying because you spend just as much time organizing your work as you do like doing your work. But the beauty of automation is that it can really surface what you need to do. So you're not coming in here and like playing productivity. You're actually seeing what is on deck, what you need to do, taking the action, and then letting Trello handle the who needs to know about it, where does it need to go now that I've done that. So um again, lots can be said about that, but I think that's what's like truly spectacular about Trello, especially compared to other tools. Oh yeah, Erica, I like what you said here about mind mapping Trello to Excel, thinking of boards as like the document lists or like your columns and cards or like your row and cell. That's like a good way to kind of think through that. I like that sort of analogy. That's a good one. So the things you need to know about boards, you can access them anywhere. You can, my grocery shopping board or my meal planning board, I can access that shopping list on my phone when I'm at the grocery store. I can even jot down things when I'm on the airplane and don't have Wi-Fi. I can jot things down and they'll sync later. Um, I can I can organize it however I want. Typically, they'll be used for specific projects, so you kind of see that I have a sort of specific purpose. Like for my boards, I could technically do all of those things in one board, but that would be a little chaotic. So I usually try to organize them by different purpose or project, but it kind of comes down to what you're trying to do. The main thing to understand about boards and when you would separate them out is you can control who sees what by board. There's not like a permission level by list or by card. It's by board. So if you have let's say you have a board, you're thinking about setting up a board for your team. I assume you would want everyone on your team to see that board, but maybe you're like, actually, I want managers to only be able to see some of it, but then I want everybody to see all of it. Well, that could be a good use case to think through, like having a manager board versus like an all team board, because it would be easy to set up access and say, okay, well, here's who I want on this board. And then I only want these people on this other board. So that's something to kind of think through there. And the other thing I want to call out is there is a limit of 10 boards in a free workspace. And so Trello's pricing can be a little bit confusing because you're like, you don't pay for your account per se. You pay for users in a workspace, and you can have multiple workspaces as users. So I'm part of tons of them. You can see that there's all sorts of things that I'm part of. I'm not active in most of them. I tend to be pretty active in my main one here, and I use Trello Premium. I pay for me and my partner in that workspace because we collaborate on a lot of different things in here. So it's worth it to me. It's I think like $10 a month. I pay annually. I think it's a little discounted at that rate or something. But um, we can talk more about Trello pricing if there's like more questions around that. But that's kind of the important thing to know. If you're using Trello for free, you'll be limited to 10 boards, which honestly you can still do a lot with 10 boards. So and just because let's say you want to add 20 people to a one of those boards, that does not mean you need to pay for 20 people. I have a whole video explaining how that can work, where you can pay for you as a workspace member to have unlimited boards, as many things as you want, and then those 20 people you want to collaborate with, as long as you just add them to that one board and not your workspace, you will not pay for them. You get as many single board guests, as they call it, as you want. So and again, happy to answer more questions chatting about like that sort of strategy of saving money with Trello. But I'm a big Trello advocate, but I also want to help people spend the right amount of money on it. And I know, Erica, often you all do as well, right? You're obviously a business trying to make money, but you're not out there trying to yeah, like I think there's very generous plans, and often you just need to understand how it all works to be able to make business sense and figure out what that looks like. So yeah, here's a little GIF showing how to create a board. It's literally that simple. From any page in Trello, you hit that create and you just say create board and you give it a name. You choose a fun background. Uh, sorry, I think Jira technically maybe has those now, but I feel like Trello came up with it first and just in general does it better. But yeah, it's that simple for creating a board, and you'll get a nice little. Let me just go to my demo board here. I have so many. It's like a very clean, straightforward board here. So yeah, so I have this set up in kind of like a workshop format. If anybody is following along and wants to create a board and has any questions, feel free to go for it. And I'm happy to answer questions if there's any. I see something in the chat. I had ChatGPT create a board to be imported JSON file. Is there a secret to actually being able to import it? Tried add-ons that were not user friendly at all. Ooh, that's interesting. I know. I'm trying to think. I don't know of one to be able to like import it as a JSON file, although that's like super interesting. My ChatGPT hack when I want to create a Trello board is more of like populating cards because let's say for instance, let me just open a thing with ChatGPT and say I'm planning a trip to Toronto and I'm making here. Let me just bring up ChatGPT over here so you all can actually see what I'm talking about. Let's say here's what I would do. I can't make it create the board structure, but I like making it create cards and I'll show you how you can put a bunch of them in there. So you can say like I'm planning a trip to Toronto. Please list various activities and return them on separate lines with no bullet points so I can copy and paste them into Trello. And then when it comes up with something here, watch this. You can get a whole list of things here. So copy that and then come over here and go to add card and hit paste. And when you hit enter, it's going to ask if you want to make one big long card or 21 cards. So basically, like every time there's a line break, it can create those cards. So that is my AI hack at like if you can figure out like what you want your list to be, and then you can just like copy and paste the cards. Oh yeah, here's the prompt and I can put in the chat too. I basically just say, please list, whatever you're wanting the card material to be, return them on separate lines with no bullet points so I can copy and paste them into Trello. I'll just post this in the chat here too so you can see that. But that's what I tend to use because it helps. Like I said, I mean, usually the lists are not the hard part. It's the content inside of it that I want. So that's kind of my hack. I don't I Erica, I don't know that I don't want to put you on the spot, and I know we can't. Probably there's limited things we can say, but suffice to say, I do know Trello is thinking about AI and thinking about ways they can do this. So yeah, I don't know how much we can say about that at the moment, but it is definitely on their horizon, and good to know that this is probably something that like folks would be interested in. Erica nodding like, yeah, yes, yes, yes. So so yeah, great question, and keep them coming for sure. So the next core piece of Trello is those lists. So you saw me kind of throw one together in here. Those are, like Erica was saying, it's kind of like the columns of your spreadsheet. People often will make them like different stages in a workflow. So you can see in my content planning board, it's the different sort of stages that content will go through before it's being published. And you can just drag cards across them as they go. So um, actually, it's a little outdated because that is done. And so is that one. So also, notice that fun little Easter egg. If you have a certain emoji like this ta-da in your done list, anytime you drag a card to that list, it will spray across your screen. So that's a fun little Easter egg right there. So yeah, so that's important things to know about lists. There's different actions you can do within lists. So it's kind of like if you want to make bulk changes to some cards, you can do it by list. You could say move all of the cards in this list somewhere. You can sort a list by, date created or alphabetically. With automation, there's some other ways you can sort. So you can sort by like labels or custom fields if you want to do that, but you need to do that via automation. You can watch, which is a way of basically saying, I want a notification about anything that happens in this list without being a member of it. And so that can be a nice feature. I'll be honest, I don't use it a ton because with notifications, things get real noisy real fast. So you can watch a list, but do that at your own will. And it's super easy to create those lists. You literally just click where it says add another list and type a name. So it could be like to do, doing, done. And if you're like, I didn't want that there, I want to move it around, you just click and drag it. It's super easy to do that. There's also sneaking in some of the new features in Trello, there's also new list types that you can add. Do we have any Jira users here? If you have Jira issues or work items or whatever you'd like to call them, yeah, Kelly, you can add your Jira issues into your Trello card. So this is one of the newer features. You basically can say, specify your workspace and some criteria. So you can say like, show me everything that's unassigned, or maybe you want it by sort of priority or a status, or whatever you want to do with that, and then just say insert issues, and it will make this list of all of these different Jira tasks that you can then incorporate into your board. So you can say, oh, I am doing this, or like, oh, that's been done. And you can even like update them from within here, so you can go straight to Jira by doing that, and like actually it's like you're in Jira, or you can update them I think maybe these don't have that same status field that I've seen on others, but like if you have like a status of like to do, doing, and done, you can usually update that. Maybe these ones. I don't use Jira a ton, but I know for people that are, that is like a thing that you can do. So yeah, sorry, you don't drag it back into there. There's some sort of weird logic where it's like it kind of like makes a copy of the card as it goes out here, so you would never like drag it back in here. This is almost just like a holding place for it as it's out here, but yeah. Um, and then yeah, you can go of course straight to the issue if you actually do want to be in Jira. So it's like a quick link to that as well. But yeah, so that's kind of your list in Trello. I think those are super cool. I don't use Jira a ton. I would love to see that for something like GitHub or Slack sometimes has like different like task items that I think it creates. I know the product team is like super keen to know like what other kind of smart list you'd like. I think people have mentioned Confluence before too. I'm curious. Notion would be another one that like my team uses. Unfortunately, we're not on the Confluence train, but yeah, definitely share in the chat if you're like, okay, I like that concept. What kind of product would you want to use it with? Because I know that that team is like always looking for more. So if you're following along, go ahead and create those lists and drag them around and let me know if you have any questions with that. And then the last part is like cards. This is my favorite to talk about because there's just these are the supercharged sticky notes. So imagine you've got your whiteboard and you've got these sticky notes, but imagine if you can actually do some like really freaking cool stuff with them. You can, um, it's not just a static item. You can add members to it. You can add dates to it. You can add labels to kind of categorize and sort them. You can add checklists, which are like subtasks to an item or to a card. You can add these custom fields. This is a premium feature or a standard, or it's a paid feature. But everything else I've mentioned is free. All of those other fields, all of these supercharged things are free except for these custom fields. Um, I already showed you adding locations. You can add descriptions with Markdown and type whatever you want. You can embed links in here even. So if you have Confluence documents, you can paste them in here. If you have Loom videos, you can paste those. Let's just pretend I've got this like not use that work one. Let's use this guy. You can just go paste this guy in here and it's going to like embed it. So it looks like really smart and really pretty. And this also works in comments. So if you click this, you open up a whole new section that gives you like a log of different things going on. And again, you can paste in there. And if you're like, oh, I actually don't want it to look like that, you can edit it to be just a line or, configure it to look however you want. Maybe you want it to be this. So lots of customization and cool stuff that you can do. You can tag people on things. So I can say, hey, Brittany, do this. And if I don't remember who all's on the card, I can tag everyone on the card or everyone on the board. Is there a time limit on Loom videos? I think on the free plan, Loom limits you to like 5 minutes, I think. Or maybe it's 10. I don't know that off the top of my head. There is a limit on like the free Loom videos. Yeah. I pay for Loom because I actually find it quite useful, and I've started using it in consulting, and it's made it a lot easier for me to do consulting because sometimes it's hard for me to get on a call. But if people are willing to be like, okay, let me explain my problem to you, and then at 9 o'clock at night, I can record a video answering and screen sharing and showing them, or even like answering questions in the community. I found it really useful for that. Um, so yeah. So the other thing I didn't mention, you can attach files to it. So let's say you're working on a graphic or something. You can attach links. You can attach actual files, so like images and things like that. You can even attach other Trello cards or Trello boards, Confluence pages, all sorts of things that you can just add as attachments here and be able to access them and do whatever you need to with that. So lots of things that you can do. It truly makes it very supercharged. And again, I think I showed this already, but you can kind of drag them around. Some styling things you can do too. You can add covers. So you can add images and style them like that if you want. Or you can add covers. This is another trip. A lot of people will ask how to group cards within Trello boards. So there's a couple ways you can do it. First of all, you can anywhere in a Trello, if you've got a card hovered like this, you can press N and it'll create a new row or a new card. And if you type the separators like that, those dashes, it creates that. But you can also, let's say you want a heading of like food places or something like that. You can open up that card can go to this cover, pick a color, and choose this cover. And a lot of people will use that as like a way to like kind of create groupings within their Trello board. So that's a fun fact. Yeah, we talked about markdown, cards, dates. I want to briefly touch on board views in Trello. This is a premium feature except for calendar. Calendar has a power up that you can use to get these sort of boards. But let's go to like my this board probably has a little bit more data in it to kind of see what it's looking at. But if you view a board in a calendar view, it's going to literally do what it says. It's going to plot your cards by calendar. So you can easily drag them around. So like you're like, let's say I want to do that on Saturday, or actually maybe I want to do that on Thursday, or wherever I want that to be. And then you can open up the card and everything's right there. And this is the one that you can get a power up for that will actually display this as well. And it can sync to your Google Calendar or whatever calendar you want to sync it to. You can view it a little more granularly by day or by week, or by month, jump around time, however you want to look at that. But these other views are paid. So if you are missing your spreadsheet, this table view is going to feel most at home to you. You can, do whatever you want in here. You can add. It's like editing a card, but editing it in a row instead of, as a board. Um, we've also this dashboard view. I'm going to be honest. This is not one of the most useful views I've ever seen in Trello. I never use this. If you have dashboarding things that you really want, there's power ups I recommend for that. And again, I could talk about that for forever. Um, is there a way to send the card back to its board after it's been on the calendar? So the thing is, the card is in both places. Like it is, it is both on the board and the calendar. It's literally just how you're viewing it. So, this card, for instance, about tracking my decisions, I can add it to a date of today. And that's just an attribute that it's being displayed by. So it is here on the board. But it's also here on on the calendar. But what you may be thinking of is this new planner feature. I don't know if that might be what you mean, Diane. This is another sort of calendar aspect of Trello that they just launched. And I have mixed feelings on it. Overall, I do like it and I think it's useful and I think it scratches the itch for a lot of people. For me, I still prefer using due dates and those sort of calendar views just because there's a lot more automation tied into it. But if you're wanting to be able to like view and organize these sort of things, you can drag cards on here, and adjust them to have focus time. But notice they're still on the board. They don't actually leave your board. There's just attributes about like, oh, this is, a time I'm planning to focus on it. Like it's very much still on this board. If you get rid of that calendar view, wrong button. If you get rid of the calendar view, it's very much still sitting there. So it's really, I find it helpful to think of these views as more of like the card is in the same schema or framework at all times. It's just more about um is it's just more about how to view it, how to display it. Um so yeah, quick way to drag and drop from my board to a calendar for social media planning without assigning a date per card. And that's, I think, exactly what you're going to want then is this planning feature, is because this will sync to a Google Calendar. So I think you could probably connect like a team calendar with this and be able to literally drag it over and say, oh, this card is going to be here. And then it still shows up on your board, but it's also going to show up like on that calendar so they can see, okay, I'm doing this. And even better from the calendar, or like, especially if they have it up in Trello, they can just click this and see the card that's going to have all of the social content and like whatever you want to do there. So I actually think that's a perfect use case for Planner and for this sort of view here. And if you're ever like, oh, I actually want to take that off, you can just hit the delete button. And yeah, that's the new calendar feature. It's part of the new Trello beta. So if you don't see it, you may need to click up here to opt into the beta. But otherwise, look at the bottom of your boards for this board switcher here, or this, what do we call this? This floating island. This is the board switcher, but there's different panels here to open up your inbox, which is like a quick place to capture, quickly capture cards that you can then drag to other places. And this planner where you can drag things either from the inbox onto here, or you can, again, drag it from boards onto the calendar. And you can adjust them, you can move them around. So if you're like, actually, I'm busy, I'm not going to be able to do that, I need to move it to later. Super easy to do that. And there's different sort of settings you can adjust views and stuff with that there. Um, so yeah, so we've already talked about like map views. Timeline is very similar to calendar. It just gives you another dimension to plot it over. So instead of just looking at a calendar, you can also see it like grouped by date. But I think those are super important. uh, we're kind of nearing the end here. I could do a whole session, and I often do, about power ups. I started the Trello Trailblazers, which I'll include a link to that, but that's basically my own Atlassian community chapter. A lot of you here, I think, are already part of it, but we have different events where we talk about all sorts of things in Trello, and oftentimes we will deep dive into some of these power ups that really can take your boards to the next level. I also bought the domain besttrellopowerups.com, which will redirect you to this board. So you can actually see some of my recommended power ups there. And adding them is super easy. The best way to explore is to click that rocket ship icon and just go to add power ups and search for different ones across different things you're trying to solve, or search for them. My pro tip: don't just go out exploring and adding all the power ups you can. Think about a problem you're trying to solve. Otherwise, you'll add 10,000 power ups to your board and be like, I don't use any of these. I don't know what they mean. So, yeah. And I'll go ahead and pause here for any questions. And Erica, I also know you said you'd be willing to kind of share some of like your work. I know I chatted through a lot of like sort of personal workflows here, but I also know there's lots of ways we use this at work, right? For keeping track of the different things we're meant to do, coordinating with our teammates about who's doing what. Um, there is no limit to power ups. No, there is no limit. And inbox, yeah, let me show you inbox. I kind of like glossed over it. So basically, it's this new. You can almost think of it as like its own Trello list and board, that you can access. You can send articles and things to it. You can forward emails to it. When you bookmark a message in Slack, it's going to create it. But it's also this panel that just sits nicely. So no matter where I go in Trello, even if I'm going to different boards, it can always kind of sit here, or I can toggle it on or off if I want. And I can just say, I need to, I don't know, take out the trash, or I can say, read this article. And again, like it works with, let's say, I can save something for later. So you can't see it, but I'm over in Slack and I just saved a message for later. So it might take it a second to go to space and back, but it's gonna come back here and actually like, here it is. So it's literally working in the process, saving that link, and it's gonna like, AI will kind of turn that into some action items. It'll say who it came from. It'll let me go back to the message if I need to, share or see anything there. And same thing with emails, right? So let's say I've got an email about, you know, needing to schedule a pet vet appointment or something like that. You can forward the email to inbox at app.trello.com, and it will do the same sort of thing it did with Slack here, and actually organize it and set it up there. So yeah, and then the gist is like, honestly, what I will do is usually once a day or so I'll come through here and I'll be like, okay, well, this is, I'm keeping track of things I want to read, so let me move this article over here. um I need to take out the trash, so let me go move that to here. I want to read this, I want to watch it, etc., and just kind of drag it over. And but this is where it can also work really well with the calendar too, right? Because if I'm like, okay, I don't need to put it on a board, I just need to remember at some point today to take out the trash. You can literally just drag it, specifically from there to here. So, yeah, I'll pause there. Erica, if you want to share, and maybe share some more about inbox, because that is one of the new Trello features that we wanted to kind of highlight a little bit more. I know we talked about card mirroring already. Maybe we can share some more with that too.
Yeah, I don't know, Britt, you've went through so much. I'm like
No, I
honestly in
was this like
awe.
fire hose? Was this helpful? I'm watching the chat and I'm like, yeah, this is. I gave you all kind of my fire hose approach. I hope that's
Yeah.
useful.
No, for sure it is. Like, I mean, y'all, like Britt is the ultimate power user of Trello. Like, she has a whole book on it, and so
I do, yeah.
there's so much that Britt knows about automations, and I'm like, what? You can do this? Like, it's
Yes.
it's it's pretty crazy the endless ideas that you can take Trello on the next level if you really want to get deep into it. But if you're like me, who doesn't always need to get super deep into it and creating custom power ups and stuff, there's other there. So Britt was showing you some of the new features that we have launched in the last couple months, and The product team has been really excited about trying to understand how people are utilizing like these new features that Britt showed, like inbox and planner. And the idea is to really help power your individual productivity as well. I know all of us are really well aware of how Trello is used across teams. And we continue encouraging people to use Trello for team collaboration. But we're trying to really hone in on the use case that we've seen just pop up over more in the years, which is just how can you help enable users to really organize their to-do lists and manage sort of the overwhelm that Brittany was talking about earlier, which is you have your sticky notes or you jot down a note like, okay, reminder to reply to this email by end of day or by Thursday or whatever. And that's kind of what the concept of the inbox feature is to help you capture all those different places and organize it in a beautiful space. So just looking at, I just got some questions in the chat. Can inbox be synced with Microsoft Office? So yeah, Outlook is coming out later this month. Right now it is for Planner, for the calendar integration, it is Google Calendar for now, but we are working on releasing Outlook by the end of the month. So I am working through a marketing plan to figure out how to inform all of you lovely folks of this update. But yeah, there's a lot of things that are coming out at the end of the month, not only on the desktop web version, but also on mobile. So that's pretty helpful too, to know that everything that Brittany showed you, you can also utilize on mobile, except for right now, Planner, that is still in the works. So the only way to use Planner, and this is something that's happening by the end of the month, is like you need to enable Planner on your web browser for your Trello account, and then you can see it pop up on mobile. You can't enable it on the mobile app. So that is something that's still being worked through, but just wanted to shout out on some.
Well, and the other thing you can do too that I think makes sense with mobile, because it syncs to your calendar, just whatever you're using for your calendar, that's where you'll see like your Trello cards for the day, like in your calendar tool. So, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. I just want to be mindful of time. Like, what would be helpful for the rest of the time? Should I show different ways to use it in a work setting? Because I think you did a really great job demoing how to use Trello in various areas. So I just want to be mindful of like what would be helpful for the crew.
Yeah, folks, what do you want to see? We've got 6 minutes left here. Let us know what you want to see. I see Kelly's asking about the summary card, how it like calculates the total spend from the list. Basically you can use custom fields, but that Power Up makes its own field, so you don't have to like pay for custom fields, and you can type it in there, and it just like sums up everything in that field. But okay, there's a request for work examples. So yeah, maybe show us your stuff, Erika, how you
let me
collaborate.
Cool. Let me see how easy it is to share my screen, entire screen 2. Okay. Can you see my screen? Great.
We see Slack.
So I'm starting in Slack for a reason.
Okay.
I have this Slack message that came through from Marissa, who's on the social team, and she's asking me, reminding me, Erika, I need you to review this thing. Like, where are you? This thing's due by tomorrow. I'm like, cool. I forgot about it, so I'm saving it for later. And I'm doing that. What Britt was talking about is this feature to save from Slack or your email, and then it will populate in the inbox. So what will happen is that a nice card will start forming up using AI. So I don't know if you can see that live happening, but AI is working on your card because it's just saving from Slack. And it's what AI is doing is reading the message and any attachments that are on it, and then it's going to populate like a nice like summarize information of what I need to do with that Slack message that was sent to me. And then it will also attach like the original Slack message. So I can go to the original source. But the point of me showing you this is just the fact that when you're saving things from various places, like your email, your Outlook, your Gmail, Microsoft Teams, Slack, AI is helping you capture that and then populating that as a nice summary into this card. And then this inbox is holding all that information for you. So this is kind of like your mission control in a sense of where all your sticky notes would live in one place. And when you're ready to move it to the appropriate board, so this board I have set up, this is like my personal planner for to-do of the week. So it's like today, tomorrow, later this week is kind of how I set up my list. Obviously, you can set it up however you want. It's very flexible. That's the beauty of Trello. So if I'm ready to review this for tomorrow, I'm going to drag it over here. And what you can see too is like something, I don't know, Bray, if you already called out like smart links capability. Really, that's something that we love using across our Trello cards, is that every time if I'm grabbing like a URL link from somewhere else and pasting it, it's going to populate into a really beautiful like card here that I can also just preview or edit within here. And then it will also just take me to the original place. So it's like little things like that that make your work life a little bit more manageable, if that makes sense. To manage all the individual tasks that are assigned to you, or if people are pinging you and slacking you and emailing you to get something done on your individual task list. This is what Trello is really helpful for. And then on top of that, I can have my Google Calendar integrated here, where you can see like my different meetings and stuff that are here. And then what Britt was showing is like I can schedule like a specific task to get done on a certain time, or I can block out focus time. So this is like a big feature that a lot of people asked from us too, was like, okay, we have all of our boards and cards on a list to get something done, but I need to block out time to actually get it done. So you can either drag the card onto your planner, or you can like create a focus time on your planner and then save it. And then you can start dragging individual cards that you're going to get done like in that focus time. Sorry, probably it's too small to see, but if you now when I open up that focus time part, then you can see those individual cards that you want to get done in that time period that you blocked off to get your tasks done. No, to sync to Google Calendar. So this is Planner. This is what everyone's going to get access to by the end of July, minus enterprise customers. And this is what Britt was talking about in terms of like, you can opt in now to try it in the beta. So right now I'm in the beta. I can exit the beta, and then you're going to see it go away, right? This is like the original Trello. But when you're ready to try it, you can try it now, and then you can start playing around with Planner. And then this is me going into showing you how to connect it to your calendar specifically. So, oops, that was the wrong one. I need my work email. So I don't know if that's helpful. And then Outlook is also going to be coming out soon. So, but right now we have Google Calendar syncing. So that's one way. And then I wanted to just give a call out because I know we always have like this Trello versus Jira thing. Oh, I know we're hitting time too. So I'm just trying to be mindful of the fact that like I use Jira for the purposes of like my year-long campaign planning for Trello. And then I use Trello for my individual boards, for my to-do list, and also for my meetings. So I use this as my meeting board that I have every Thursday to have a calendar ready of topics that we need to discuss for each team. And then I drag a Loom recording from that meeting because I have Loom Note Taker on my meeting. And then I take that link from Loom and I post it in my Trello board at the top. And then you can see, like, if you miss that meeting, you can go back to this board and then see, like, what did I miss from this Loom recording? And the Loom recording has, like, AI notes scripted for it, too. So, sorry, I know we're at time, so I'll just stop sharing my screen.
You're good. We can book, like, another, like, hour session for next week, you know, and just go into all the power-ups and everything else.
Yeah, like Erika said, I wrote a book on it. Like, I mean, I can keep on going. I have lots to say, and it's always tough in stuff like this, trying to find the right balance of, you know, you've got some people who've never heard of it before, and some people who are like using it every day and want more, and it's like trying to make sure you've got something for everybody. But if you felt like anything we talked about was like, wait, that was way over my head, can we dive deeper into that? Like, message me and let me know, because there's a good chance I have a video on it where I can kind of walk through it a little step by step, a little slower. Or if you're like, wait a minute, we touched on some cool stuff, but like I have a specific question about how to do this in Trello. That's a weird thing that I love to do for fun. I literally, you know, will spend my Friday nights being like, what if I could do this in Trello? So if you got a question, I literally have a section of my newsletter that I call Dear Taco. It's like Dear Abby, where you can just send Trello questions. So definitely. Oh, that's an interesting one. Julia says I'm on the enterprise plan and I cannot see the beta. I wonder, is that a workspace thing? Oh, you're saying that's a
That's what I was calling out earlier, is that enterprise customers do not have access to this yet, Julia, but we are working on releasing this later. Hopefully August, September, but I need to just confirm with the product team. And there's a reason for that. It's because of like admin access capabilities and just trying to make sure we don't upset our admins. With
I was gonna say that's the grunt of it all, right? Is that like, yeah, everybody wants it, but then there's also the limits of, you know, you've got to, the enterprise people, they when you sign up for the enterprise, you sign up for slower, more people to approve things and things to get going, and yeah, that's why I'm more of a Trello girly than a Jira girly.
It's not necessarily slower for Trello, but it's just more of like just mindfulness of how we roll that out for our enterprise customers, because we know like just the admin.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying though. That like that's why I think Jira has the idea of like, oh, it's an enterprise tool, and it's like, yeah, like, and there's lots of things people like about that, but typically like an enterprise environment means, yeah, it's going to take a little while for everything to get sorted out because there's lots of different approvals to go through. Like, not not a Trello thing. It's just a enterprisey sort of thing. I feel like I see that all over, but yeah, awesome.
Well,
thanks for having us, Kelly. This was awesome. Yeah, and thanks for everybody joining. Thanks, Tori and Diana and Julia and everybody who joined. This was awesome. Renee, your great questions in here.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, thank you guys so much for joining us today too. We are going to have another Trello thingy talk next month with our chapter. We're trying to get Mike and Lex to join, so hopefully we'll be able to like dive deeper into some things and whatever. So I should be posting about that pretty soon here with some more details. But yeah, thank you guys again so much for your time. I'll definitely send out a link to the video too after this, probably in the next couple of days since this was recorded. Surprise!
Surprise! What's recording? Is that what that big recording thing is?
Yeah, unless you're not okay with that, Britt, then I'll delete it.
No, that's perfect. No, I'm glad you did, because I've definitely had some people in my newsletter who were asking for a recording and weren't able to make it.
Yeah, right. We want the recording, so yeah, we always record. So yeah, I'll send that out afterwards. And yeah, thank you guys so much. Have a great rest of your day, and we will see y'all soon.
Thank you.
Trello.
Yeah. Bye. Bye, Jordan.